Alright, what's up everyone? I got a little bonus video today for all my camera nerds out there. I didn't write a script or anything, so if it sounds like I'm rambling, it's because it is. So let's just get right into it. So first up, we got this gun case that I got from Harbor Freight, and I turned it into a camera case, and as you can see, I put a bunch of these stickers on top of it. But anyways, inside we have all my lenses, my cameras, and I took out the top foam and put in these Velcro pads with a bunch of little bags for cables and stuff. So this is my main camera. This is the Fujifilm XH2S. I have a couple things to say about this camera, but I'll say that for the end of the video. But so far, it served me pretty well. And as you can see, we have a bunch of lenses here. I only have like two main kind of, I guess, digital lenses. The rest of them are a bunch of vintage film, like manual type lenses that I've adapted to fit onto my XH2S. But as for electronic, I guess, lenses, we have the Sigma 18-35 and this 18-120 from Fujifilm. But for this particular demonstration, I'm gonna go with this lens. I think it's from Vivitar. This lens could get its own video. I've done a lot of stuff to it to modify in order to make it better for video, but that's what we're going with for this particular demonstration. Next we have the 15mm rod base plate, and you'll notice a recurring theme with my whole rig is I have all kinds of budget options and just cheaper alternatives. Like this one here, instead of getting an actual quick release base plate, I took this like base plate off of one of my tripods and I screwed it onto the base plate, so I made it quick release essentially with the Arca Swiss that's on the bottom of the camera cage. And next up we have the top handle and the side handles. I went with this top handle specifically because you can move it, you can slide it forward and back and also left to right, so it's really good for balancing the camera. And then this particular side handle, I wanted this one because you can rotate it by pushing that little button. And like I said, my entire rig, I either got it discounted, used, or it's a cheap alternative for something I actually wanted. So this side handle, I got it for half off on eBay. This next piece is the newest addition to my rig, and it's this chest pad from Small Rig. I've been on the fence about keeping this thing just because it was a little pricey for what it does, which is essentially when you're shooting, you can push it against your chest, so it gives you 3 points of contact on your rig, including the two handles and, you know, the actual chest pad. And next up, I'm attaching the matte box, and this shows kind of the cool thing about this case and what I did to it, and that's all these little pouches have all these tiny things that I can lose track of, but I also need to have them close by. So having them in the lid itself, it's really convenient and it makes them really easy to get. Now for my actual matte box, I have the kind of basic one from Small Rig. I'm okay with having such a cheapo matte box just because I don't really use matte boxes all that often, especially not with this lens because it has a really big problem, which I'm about to demonstrate in a second. But that's the design of this lens. When you zoom in and out by pushing the ring back and forth, but when it does that, it turns the front element, so the matte box ends up doing this. Next up, I'm gonna attach the monitor. This is the Viltrox DC 550, I think. And if there's one thing that I'm gonna replace on the rig sooner rather than everything else, it's definitely this. It's not a bad monitor per se, but I would definitely prefer one that has other inputs and outputs like SDI. And also I would prefer one that's also an external recorder. I have two ways of attaching it. This first one I think is called a double ball joint. And this one I put in front of the top handle, and this one's primarily for when I'm actually using the top handle, and this particular angle is the best way to see the monitor. And I don't really like these sun hood things that come with them, so I just take them off. But I like using these ball joints because it makes it really flexible, and I can change up the angle and, you know, the viewing angle of the monitor really quickly. And now I gotta wire everything up, and I definitely need a new HDMI cable for this monitor because this one's really short. So Christmas is coming up, and if anybody wants to give me a gift, a Connor Blue HDMI cable would be pretty nice. But this is one of the big reasons why I want to change out this monitor, is because I really don't like the location of these HDMI inputs. They're really inconvenient, especially when I'm grabbing the top handle. They kind of get in the way, and I'm always afraid of them getting unplugged. Next up, I'm wiring up the camera to the V-mount. I could get a dummy battery and use the D-tap instead, but I've heard some stories of powering your monitor and your camera through your D-tap, at least on this particular camera, and it ends up bricking the camera, and that's something that I'm kind of afraid of, so I'd prefer to just power them separately. But I have this really cheapo follow focus from Newer. A lot of this rig is actually from Newer, like 90% of it. I would definitely prefer a bigger follow focus, one that I don't need to turn as much to do the full throw of the lens, but this one works perfectly fine, I guess. Now I kind of backtracked a little bit. I took off the monitor and I unplugged a couple things because I want to show you the second way that I like to attach the monitor, which is with this friction arm. I like the idea of having a friction arm because it's even more flexible than the ball joint is. So if I have anybody else who needs to see the monitor, like the director or my AC or something, it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to see it as well. And also, if in the future I end up getting a shoulder rig, which I really want to at some point, this will make that even more easier to bring it down to eye level. Now, it's super rare when I attach a microphone to this camera. Not my vlogging camera. I attach a microphone to that one all the time, but this one in particular, I almost never use a microphone on it just because I'm mostly getting visuals with this. But when I do, I have this Sennheiser MKE 400 and I just attach it to any one of these quote shoes and plug it in, at least just to get room tone if I need to. So this is what the finished rig ends up looking like. It doesn't always look like this. It's actually pretty rare when it does, but when it does, it ends up weighing a ton. And you'd think that's a bad thing, but I'd actually like for it to be heavier if possible. And the reason for that is because when it's heavier, it ends up taking away a lot of those kind of micro jitters that you get in these rigs that are based off of hybrid mirrorless cameras. It might sound kind of dumb, but when you take away those micro jitters, it takes it from looking like amateur style handheld to more Hollywood style handheld. Okay, so before I go, I did say I had some things to mention about this camera, and that is I'm probably going to end up selling it within the next year or two. I did say that it's been pretty good to me, and it has. I've done a lot of projects on it, and I really liked it so far. I love Fujifilm. You can call me a fanboy, I don't care, but I really like Fujifilm. I like all their color signs. I like the styling of their bodies. I like all the features that they've packed into this thing. Now that being said though, yeah, I'm probably going to end up selling it eventually, and the reasons for that I have right here. The first big one is autofocus. If you don't know, Fujifilm has had a problem with autofocus for I think over a year now. Ever since they did this firmware update, their autofocus has been really buggy. And they recently, like I want to say a couple months, they did a firmware patch. And at least for me personally, it's gotten it pretty good now. It's still not 100% though. On its own, that's not like a deal breaker for me, because with this thing, I don't use autofocus all that much, because I mainly use autofocus like on this camera for like vlogging and stuff like that. But for this one, this is for like quote unquote bigger productions and whatnot. So, you know, I'm mostly like manually focusing for that. So it's not a huge deal for me, but at the same time, it kind of is, because even if it's a feature that I don't use, if I'm paying $2,500 for a camera, I expect all of its features to work like at 100% all the time. And the fact that they've gone this long with the autofocus so messed up without any type of response other than this like patch that they recently did after who knows how long. I think it was like close to a year that they went without patching it. It's not cool. It's not a good look for the company, and it's definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. On its own, it's not like a big deal, but with this other stuff, you know. So the next thing is monitoring. This is, I said I wanted to sell the monitor earlier, and it's not entirely the monitor's fault. Like, on its own, the monitor's pretty good. Like, I've tried it with this ZV-1, and it works fine. Like, it's pretty good. It's not the best. Like, I would definitely prefer something a little nicer, but it does the job. The thing is, though, I've tried this camera with other monitors, and I don't know what it is, but for some reason, it always ends up looking really weird. Like, the colors are really inaccurate, like from what you're seeing on the camera screen. What comes out on the monitors, it's super inaccurate. It just looks really weird. And like I said, I've tried it on multiple monitors, so it's not just a problem with the one that I have. Like, I've even plugged it into my TV because I thought, like, maybe that would work, but no, it makes it look weird. So, and I've watched a couple videos on like other Fujifilm content creators, and they have similar issues in terms of monitoring. I'm sure it's something that could be fixed in a firmware update. I don't think it's like anything too detrimental, but again, it's something that's gone unaddressed. Now these next two things, these are kind of more like, I guess, creature comforts. Next one is lenses. Fuji's done a pretty good job of making more lenses. They have like, a pretty good line. The thing is, though, they don't have a lot of dedicated video lenses. This one that I have, this 18-120, this is like technically their first dedicated video lens, and it's good. I really like this lens. This 18-120 ends up being like 24 to 180, I don't know, something like that, something crazy like that, at a constant aperture of f4. That's pretty insane. And then with all these like weird, it has this little rocker thing, and you can use this to throw your focus as well as zoom. It also has these two buttons, which you can use for the same thing, to zoom. And then it also has this ZF button, which I'm sure you can guess, switches the rocker from zooming to focusing. So, and all internal zooming, which is awesome. And a lens this size to 18-120, that's a crazy range. The thing is, though, they haven't made anything else like that since then. And this lens had so many problems when it first came out. A lot of people had a lot of problems with it. Something about the exposure changing. Luckily, I think I might have gotten a really good copy because I love this thing. I love this thing so much. And I basically stole it. I got it from, I think it was MPB. Something about, I don't know, there's like something on the front element that like leaves a visible, it's visible on your final image. I don't see it. So, suckers. Anyways, they haven't made anything else like that since. I hope they do soon. As you can see, I still like adapt other lenses. Like, this is the Sigma 18-35, but I shouldn't have to do that. Like, I'd like to use Fuji native lenses because they work best with the autofocus, which is a whole other issue on its own. But that's besides the point. The next thing, the next thing is ports. I like the ports that are on this. It has what you need. It has separate headphone and mic jacks. It has full-size HDMI, your USB-C. It works, It has a remote port. I don't know why. but it has it if you want it, I guess. So the ports are fine, but if this is quote unquote my main cinema camera, I'd like for it to have SDI if possible. So there's a couple solutions here, I guess. If Fuji comes out with a dedicated cinema camera within the next 2 years, absolutely I'll stay with Fujifilm. I still really like Fujifilm, like, don't get me wrong, but it's just all the little quirks that this thing has. It's just no good. And it makes it kind of hard to love the camera. But if they came out with a dedicated cinema camera, I'd be fully on board. I would chuck this thing in the trash if someone asked me to, just to get that. Or they fully address all of the issues that, you know, I've mentioned, and I've heard a bunch of other Fuji content creators mention as well, like the monitoring and the autofocus. If they address those and completely patch them, I don't know, maybe I'd stay. But at least at the moment, with all the just little quirks it has, there's just so many other good cameras out there, so many other good hybrid cameras. Like I was looking at the Z6 III from Nikon. That thing looks really cool, and it's the same price and full frame. It's not a fully stacked sensor like this one, but it's partially stacked, so you get like most of the benefits without paying a lot of the price. I don't know, I'm doing a lot here. Either to do that, or on the other hand, I would definitely consider saving up some. I would sell all my Fuji stuff, like the body, the lens, and maybe even this 18-35, and then save up the rest for an FX6. I would absolutely do that. If I could get one for a good price especially, I would definitely do that. So, like I said, I love this thing, but if Fuji doesn't get their stuff together, I'm absolutely selling it, and I'm going for an FX6 or a Z6 III or a Lumix S52X. Those are really nice and super crazy stupid cheap too, relatively. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got. I hope you like the rig build. I've always wanted to do one of those. I always find them really entertaining on YouTube. So I thought I'd throw my hat in there, see how I did. And yeah, I mean, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Follow me on all my socials. Links will be down in the description. And I don't have anything to announce at the moment, but if I do, I would definitely get back to you. Alright, thanks.